Welcome back, everybody. Today's video is going to be unlisted, but feel free to share with friends and family. Let's not blast this out too hard yet, but I'm going to be doing a lot of Twitter Spaces to talk about something really cool. It's a petition for an amicus brief that you can go to and sign today. It's called PulsePetition.org. Go sign the petition today if you want to have a voice in the future of blockchain and defend PulseChain, PulseX, and Richard Hart and blockchain technology as freedom of speech. Because that's what HEX, PulseChain, and PulseX are. They are free speech, and we sacrificed for the ideals of the First Amendment, the ideas that crypto represents. We had no expectation of profit from the work of others, and we were lucky enough to get tokens in our wallets that started at a $0 value. Obviously, these projects both launched fully complete with no necessity of managerial effort from Richard ever again. Knock on wood, but the man could get hit by a bus tomorrow. HEX, PulseChain, and PulseX would go on just fine because they are decentralized, trustless, and immutable code, and that's what the SEC doesn't understand. So, with their reckless enforcement action and a lack of regulatory clarity, claiming everything is a security, applying 100-year-old laws, and Congress is trying to restructure the SEC. They're trying to push Gensler out, and they're trying to come up with common sense legislation, which the SEC is not. And we know they've been vastly unfair, and they are trying to attack us personally. So what can we do? We can fight back by signing this amicus brief. Amicus brief means a friend of the court. And guys, we've got a badass lawyer. His name is Robert Barnes. I'm going to talk about him in a minute. It's all fully paid for already, but he's going to be representing us on this amicus brief. And I'll be hosting some Twitter Spaces to, get the word out. Our goal right now is to collect about 500 to 1,000 signatures. All right, it's PulsePetition.org. Go here and sign your name. Now, first of all, let me be clear. You don't have to sign this. If this makes you angry, if you think that I'm trying to somehow steal your data, I can't stress this enough. I could not care less about your personal data, but we do need to collect real personally identifiable information, and the signatures are confidential and used for legal purposes only. All right, so we do need first, last name, email, street, address, and phone number. Okay. Now, this is because, given that the court actually tries to call some of these people, they need to be real people. Okay, they need to be real people. And so, if you'd be willing to receive a phone call and say, "Hey, did you sign this petition?" And if you'd be willing to say, "Yep, that was me. I signed the petition," then go ahead and take 2 minutes out of your day and support freedom of speech, support blockchain technology, and defend yourself and the community from the SEC, these unfounded attacks, which is extremely offensive. They think that we need protection from these new blockchain products when really we are more victimized by them. The SEC hurt the price of our cryptocurrencies more than it ever protected us. We're out here protecting people through education about real crypto, education about its volatility, education about how it works. And the SEC thinks you're too stupid to understand what you got yourself into. So it's probably going to have a lot harder time finding victims than it really thinks, because there's going to be hundreds, if not thousands of us signing this petition to basically say in paper verbatim. You can read it right here. If you click this button, you read the petition right here. You can copy it into another program if you want to. But by signing this petition, you're agreeing that you're not a victim. If anything, the value of things we invested in has been victimized by the SEC itself. So they've been failing to protect investors, failing to protect you. And so here is how you make your voice heard. Here's how you speak out. There's power in numbers, and there's a lot more of us than they realize. So when this gets sent to a judge, and they are going to have to read it, okay, they're going to have to read it, because we're making sure that a lawyer, a very good lawyer, by the way, is sending this in through what's called the Free America Law Center. And we're being represented by Robert Barnes, guys. Robert Barnes is known for successfully defending Kyle Rittenhouse. You might have heard about that case. And also Wesley Snipes, reducing, what could have been huge and much worse cases. Okay, this is SEC. This is a civil case. The cases that this legend, Robert Barnes, is known for were much worse than the case. There were much higher stakes for the individuals in those cases than there currently is in this, BS, baseless claims from the plaintiff of the SEC, okay, which is a civil institution. He even represented Ralph Nader. Okay, so make your mark. All you need to do is sign your name, provide basic info for the court, and stand together behind our cause. Because together we can triumph over the injustice that the SEC is trying to pull on us, and we can band together and protect our crypto assets and our ideal about crypto's core principles. All right, so unite against the SEC manipulation, safeguard your Pulse, HEX, and PulseChain. See, under the direction of Gary Gensler, the SEC is actively trying to, they would seize it if they could. Now they can't, but they would if they could. And their cunning, scheming, Machiavellian manipulation involves branding the HEX, PulseChain, and PulseX as unincorporated alter egos, which is another entirely baseless claim because, like I mentioned, these things would survive entirely without any effort from Richard Hart at all. They're completed products and they're decentralized in nature, which the SEC does not seem to understand. So we firmly assert that our sacrifice was driven by principles, not a covert pact, not a tongue-in-cheek agreement or arrangement in which the complainant, right, the complainer, the complaint, that was what was written in that document, that 7-8 page document. A tongue-in-cheek arrangement is not something that was ever had between any of the sacrificers. So defend your fundamental human rights, guys. The SEC has been suffering a lot of losses lately. Ripple, 3 losses on Ripple, soon to lose against Coinbase, probably. Uniswap, the judge dismissed a potential allegation there. Bitcoin ETFs, they're being forced to approve. And for some reason, they want to shut down crypto. It seems like they just want to regulate by enforcement with these reckless behavior rather than design new regulations for a totally new asset class. They're trying to apply 100-year-old laws and driving innovation out of the country and destroying people's assets, the prices, with fear, uncertainty, and doubt because nobody is sure about building in America anymore. So these are having very unintended negative side effects from their reckless behavior when they should really just be legislating and regulating and doing their job. They are claiming the rules are clear, and then they're not providing rules, and then they're saying, you're guilty, prove you're innocent. So I always thought it was innocent until proven guilty. The SEC seems to think it's guilty until proven innocent. So they're challenging your dedication to the First Amendment, freedom of expression, and freedom of assembly. That's what we sacrificed for. Freedom of movement and freedom of speech. Freedom of expression, okay? We ardently maintain that these two truths can coexist. You can believe in the principles that you sacrificed for, and it's also reasonable that you receive some crypto rewards that, when launched complete, began at zero value. This does not change the fact that your sacrifice for Pulse and PulseX is recorded on an immutable blockchain on over 700,000 validators worldwide and 45,000 validators on the PulseChain blockchain. So these are etched in stone, in digital stone, on archival nodes throughout the world, on a decentralized network. And this is proof. So let's band together. Let's make our voices heard. All you got to do is go to pulsepetition.com, sign the form. And if you've got friends or family or other people that were affected negatively by this case, we need to send this to the court. We need to send an amicus brief to the court, which we'll be able to do after the court proceedings kick off, which they haven't even kicked off yet, by the way, guys. They have not even kicked off yet. November 28th, they might kick off. We're going to wait and see what happens. We don't know what's going to happen on November 28th. We don't know how things are going to play out. Richard might fight. Richard might motion to dismiss. Who knows? He might not even respond. We don't even know if he's been served. There's a lot of unknowns, and I know that's scary. Okay, there's a lot of unknowns out there. But what we can do, what's within our control, is banding together as a community right now to sign this petition. And just like in the Ripple case, they got 50,000 signatures. And the judge had to read those, and the judge had to take that into account when deciding. And I believe that the amicus brief in the Ripple case was a pivotal moment that ended up in the favor of Ripple and against the SEC. So this amicus brief, again, will be submitted to a federal court by a legendary, like-minded individual that shares our ideals, Robert Barnes, legendary lawyer, and he will be sending it from the Free America Law Center, and we are shouldering all of the legal bills on your behalf. Okay, we have already covered the expenses on your behalf. You don't have to pay anything. We're not asking for money. We're asking for 1 minute of your time to help defend your crypto and your ideals. Now, one other question you might be asking is, do I have to be from the USA? No, you do not. In fact, it might even look very interesting to understand, for the courts to understand that these are global participants and that they are affecting a global ecosystem right now. So the SEC needs to realize that they're not the policeman of the entire world. So if you're not in the USA, by all means, go put your address in here. Just pick a different country, okay? Tell us what country you're from. I'm sure a large majority of the signers will be from the USA, but let's let our voices heard and let it be known that the sacrificers and the fans of this decentralized cryptocurrency have nothing to do with Richard Hart, first of all. And second of all, we are a global, decentralized, organic movement, and it's all grassroots. And we really do believe in this. So let's take the power back into our own hands. Let's not just sit by and watch and be helpless about it. Now, I am very optimistic about the outcome. I'm very optimistic that the SEC is corrupt. I believe it's due for a restructuring. I believe there's many possibilities out there. The case could get dismissed. The chairs could shuffle around. That we might not have the same chairman by this time next year. Richard could fight it and win. He could settle. We have no idea what's going to happen. He might not have even been served yet. November 28th is the next big step in the proceedings. And it's really going to just kick off, I guess, the official process, and we're going to see what happens after that. But I'm not going to try to pretend I'm a lawyer here. I'm not a lawyer. And everybody else on the internet needs to know that we can imagine what's going to happen, all the potential scenarios all day long. None of it really matters. All that matters is what you can do right now today. It's not worth getting all worked up about the endless possibilities of how the future could play out. And again, if you don't like this, if for some reason this makes you angry or upset, simply don't sign it. Just don't sign it. Don't watch this. Step away and go live your life. Go be mentally stable and happy somewhere else. Again, we do require personal information to be sent to a court because we need the court to know that these are real people. But if that bothers you, just ignore this whole video. You don't have to sign it, but you could have an impact on the outcome if you do. So, I don't want your data. I could care less about where you live, what your name is. I will strictly only be sharing this with a lawyer. The lawyer I just talked about, Barnes, who will be submitting on behalf of Free America Law Center directly to the judge and could get us closer involved with the court proceedings. So we're just kicking this off. We've got 0 signatures. Let's make our voices heard and let's try to get up to 1,000. I think we could easily get 1,000 before November 28th even starts. I think that would be more than doable. Ripple got 50,000. John Deaton, the Ripple lawyer, he collected 50,000 signatures. I think 1,000 is easily within reach. I know there were maybe tens of thousands of people in the PulseChain and HEX ecosystem right now. So the SEC needs to know that what they're doing is harming investors. They're not helping. They're not trying to educate. They're not trying to provide regulation and clarity. They are actively harming investors. We could see it on the price chart. The moment, the day, the hour that the press release came out from the SEC, the price of HEX, PulseChain, and PulseX dropped massively. Now, would it have done that otherwise? Probably not. It's a very, very clear indication on the price charts. Look at this, very clear indication here. This chart was going okay. Everything was going fine. And can you guess the day that the SEC lawsuit dropped? Go ahead and guess. Go ahead and guess. That's right. See those 2 big red candles there? As the news of the SEC disseminated through society, culture, online, they caused tens of thousands of people's net asset value, net worth, to drop over 50% in 2 days. Actually, 58% in 1 day, a matter of hours, 57% over 2 days. And that's where we're at today. We're still trying to recover from that. So much for protecting investors. We need to give Gary Gensler and the rest of the people at the SEC a piece of our mind. And here is one thing we can do to make that happen. Let's make your voices heard. Sign the petition at pulsepetition.org. I'll see you on the next one.